Well, if you're wondering to yourself why this brother looks so good in this damn suit, it's because, well, Succession only meant business, so I have to come correct. I have to mean business, and this is the best way to do so. So we dressed up. You already know what we getting into, ladies and gentlemen. This is my Succession Season 4 finale slash, series review. So let's get into it. Hey guys, it's your guy in the chair here, and look, I said it in the intro, said it in my video title. This is my Succession Season 4 series finale slash series recap. In general, I'm just going to be going over the pivotal events that happened in this finale episode. I'm going to be going over the majority of the events that happened in Season 4, and honestly, probably going to be recapping some stuff that happened over the series itself that led us to this incredible finale. So, with that being said, this is going to be a full head-on spoiler warning. So, I'm going to let you know now. If you have not seen Succession, if you have not seen any of Season 4, if you haven't seen anything regarding the Season 4 finale, blah, 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 you can stop right here. But if you don't care about spoilers, or if you're like me and you got to get this off your chest, you got to talk about what you just saw, welcome in. Let's go ahead and get down to business. Now, with that being said, the way I'm going to do this is I'm essentially just going to be going over the finale recaps, of course, and then just giving my overall thoughts on everything, just kind of recapping it all together. I'm really just probably going to be rambling because there's just so much to unpack here. There's so much to go over. So with that, I'm just going to start with the fact that, well, I'm going to start from the end. Am I going to start from Tom's crowning? Not necessarily. I'm going to get to Tom's crowning, but I'm going to get to before that. I'm going to get to a little, what happened before that. And that's personally the fact that none of the kids deserved the CEO of Waystar title. I'm not going to lie to you. Now, I'll say this. I'll start with Roman. Because Roman, for me, was always the weakest link. While Roman, at times, this season 4 especially, did try to show gestures of toughness and strength and, making moves of his own, he couldn't really handle it. And I'm not even saying that at the fact of him completely breaking down and crying at his dad's funeral, not being able to say anything about his dad whatsoever. Like, I don't necessarily see that as weakness, but a lot of other people did in the show. But of course, that shows just how thick-skinned and how tough this family and this business is that you need to be able to run this entire thing. So of course, if Roman goes up there and he's breaking down crying and people are making fun of him, calling him weak and stuff like that, dude, you didn't have the backbone. And we knew long before that Roman did not have a backbone, did not have the wit, the grit to be the CEO of Waystar. Like, he had the witty comebacks. He had plenty of those. Plenty of witty comebacks. But he did not have the backbone to run this company whatsoever. As far as Kendall and Shiv go, who should I start with? I'll start with Shiv. So, look, I'll say this. Shiv, towards the end of this show especially, because for a very long time through the first 3 seasons I was Team Kendall. I only wanted to see Kendall thrive, only wanted to see Kendall on top. But like I said, this season here, Season 4, really opened my eyes to the fact that none of these kids deserve to be the CEO. But the thing is, if Shiv was a guy, Shiv would be undoubtedly the easiest choice for the succession. Like, I feel like it wouldn't even be close. Shiv literally had it all. She was just a woman. Like, Shiv had the intelligence, she had the backbone, she had the wit, the grit, she had the resources, she had the want to. Her problem is she never could, focus on, she was always a grass is greener on the other side type person. Like I said, when Logan died, a lot of these kids' true colors started to show. Kendall, we kind of already saw a lot of Kendall's true colors through the first 3 seasons. They were just kind of hidden because, of course, Logan is like the bigger shadow. Logan is the biggest shadow over all of them. So, of course, they can't be their true selves and their most destructive selves. But Kendall definitely was that for a majority of the series itself. But, once Logan died, what is the saying? All bets are off. All bets were off at that point. These guys, it was like watching dogs chew at a bone. And then it's like these dogs were being taught. It's like basically the game that Logan was playing with them. From my perspective, is like Logan basically threw a bone out to 3 dogs. He threw a bone out into the wilderness for 3 dogs to fight over, and whoever brought back that bone could have been the successor. But of course, they find out there's multiple bones that have to be thrown. They find out that there's just so much they have to do, and he's just at the end of the day, Logan's just playing with these dogs. They don't really mean anything to him. That's personally how I felt like Logan's game was towards his kids. I felt like Logan never truly wanted to give anyone his seat.
It's my fucking company. You are a fucking nobody.
Like, come on now, we found that out I feel like in season 3, like we just figured out as many chances as he was giving them, something would always come up as to why Logan could never truly step down and give one of his kids the title. I feel like it's multiple things. It's because of his own stinginess. It's because Logan himself didn't want to see anybody else in that seat. He didn't want to see anybody in power other than himself. He couldn't handle anything like that. He's too powerful of a man to give up that type of stature. He was too powerful. He didn't want to give that up at all. And I feel like Logan did know that his kids weren't ready. I feel like he knew that his kids just weren't going to be able to pan out and actually be able to run the company. And like I said, the only reason Shiv's only, Shiv does have a lot of other flaws as well. Like I said, her grass is greener on the other side persona, especially in this last season, her trying to make a deal with Mattson, her trying to swing back to Tom, her trying to go back to Kendall and literally find anywhere where she can determine that she's safe and she will be secured. That's all Shiv was ever about. So that's kind of why I feel like, that on top of the fact that Shiv was a woman. Nobody ever was going to want to see a woman in power. Like, that's really the only reason Shiv was always being dicked out of these situations, is because she's a woman. Like, I'm just going to keep it real plain and simple with you. That, and just the fact that she was she was just all over the place. Like, Shiv could never stand her ground on one mountain. Like, she was always trying to move to whatever play she thought was the next best one. She was always trying to move to the next best play, never just run the play itself, run the play that she was coming up with herself. She was always trying to find something else to do, and that's kind of where she got in her own way, of course. But like I said, at the end of the day, Shiv was a woman. That just was never happening. Kendall, like I said, for the first 3 seasons, I was a big advocate of Team Kendall. I was all about Kendall. I wanted to see Kendall rise to power. And it's so crazy, like, now looking back on Kendall's story, how Kendall essentially, and the parallels by the end of the episode is ridiculous, especially for Kendall and Shiv. But as far as Kendall's case goes, Kendall is literally a carbon copy of his dad. Kendall didn't even have the throne yet, but it's all he ever wanted. It's all Kendall's sights have ever been on. So he did everything in his power to not even acknowledge his family, not acknowledge his wife, his kids. And we'll talk about the whole randos jab that Roman had for Kendall towards at the end during their big meeting and everything like that. But look, Kendall, for his entire life, did whatever he could to keep his eyes on that throne and that throne only. That's all he ever cared about. And so he really destroyed most of his other relationships on the outside and destroying himself on the inside just to do, honestly, it was for his father's approval at one point, but at one point it was for his father's approval, but then we just got to the point where he just wanted it for himself, and it was killing him from the inside out. And Kendall, he killed a guy, essentially didn't want to own up to it.
That didn't happen.
Wait, it didn't? What?
It's just a thing I said. It's a thing I said. I made it up.
You made it up?
It was a difficult time for us.
And after Shiv called him out, which I will say was stupid, but let me stay on track. Let me stay on track. Just for the fact that Kendall just didn't deserve this position at all. And it's all revealed in season 4. Season 4, I feel like, season 1 through 3 is us watching Logan's game just be played out about how, essentially Logan's trying to show us in a very sick, in his Logan Roy way, that, these kids really don't deserve, that title. They're not ready.
You're such fucking dopes. You're not serious figures. I love you, but you are not serious people.
They're just not ready. They're weak. They're not, his kids aren't necessarily who he envisioned, or basically Logan doesn't think his kids are him. Like, they think he knows that they are a part of his bloodline. He just knows they're not them. Like, if anybody, like I said, Logan was too stingy of a man to give up a stature of that power, power of that status, and he just didn't want to see anybody else in his seat. So, but of course, if any of the other kids when they in this position, if they were the CEO of Waystar, they would be the exact same. I promise you, they would be the exact same. Now, let's talk about the decisions that were made to lead up to Tom becoming CEO. First of all, well, let's start with that meeting itself. Let's start with the fact that Shiv didn't want to vote. Like I said, Shiv was not wrong in her analysis that Kendall is not fit to lead. She's 100% right. It's just the timing and her reasonings for it were kind of back and forth. Like some reasonings made sense, some didn't. Her completely talking about her kid could be the successor. I'm not gonna lie to you, that's very true. And while Kendall does have kids, while Kendall does have kids, he neglected them the entire series. And for Roman to call them randos, I'm not gonna lie to you, as a general audience member, though, if you were to go back and think of all the characters that you've seen throughout this show, Kendall's kids are randos. Kendall's kids are random. We're not very used to seeing them get an ample amount of screen time. I can't even recall the last time, maybe the episode where they had a wake at his house, at Logan's house. Maybe that's when the kids were there. I don't even know. I just remember, I remember pivotally most of this season, Kendall was arguing with his wife because they just feel like their safety is out of control, and Kendall just can't see his kids. So, but Roman is completely 100% right. His kids are definitely randos, and Shiv was definitely right in her assessment to say that Kendall is not fit to lead. And honestly, Kendall even showed that by, like I said, her reasoning was stupid for bringing this up, that he killed a guy. It sucks that Shiv wanted to wait until the day of to bring up all this stuff. So I do understand that it's a very shitty notion and a very shitty thing that she did. They are all shitty people. Nobody's a good guy here. Nobody in this show is good. There's no one to root for. Everyone is just showing you their true colors and who they are. And honestly, at some point, you really just have to accept that from Succession. That's what I'm saying. This ending, I feel like really couldn't have gone any other way, because no one here is a good person. No one here is somebody that you can truly root for with a clean conscience, because you all know these people are dirtbags. All these people will step over whoever they have to get to that title. And then there's Roman, who's just gonna emotionally break down, and just honestly not show up to work for 2 weeks to 2 months because he randomly wanted to go fight people in a crowd somewhere. So I mean, these people are just all over the place, and there's really nobody to root for. And that's really where this season kind of just opened my eyes to a lot of that. There's just no one here. There's no good guys here in this show. For the longest, I really wanted it to be Kendall. I really wanted Kendall to be the good guy. But then you got Kendall here just absolutely just not even acknowledging the fact that he actually killed a kid. And for the majority of season 2, that was literally weighing on him, how Kendall was losing himself because he killed a guy. Not finally killed a guy, but because he killed somebody. That really changed him, man. That really woke something up or made something die in Kendall, which basically Kendall's was soulless for most of season 2. He was a soulless meat puppet for Logan. And I mean, look, for you to sit up there and deny that, bro, you're showing your true colors right there. Like I said, and then he just ended up fighting. But for Shiv to really backdoor them like that, all just because essentially she wants some sort of secure comfort and power, is just absolutely ridiculous. Like I said, everybody's at fault here. There's no good guys. Everybody's wrong. As far as Tom's crowning as the CEO goes, I mean, look, I'm not gonna lie to you. Tom sucked a lot of dick to get up there. Not literally, but basically, yeah. Tom sucked a lot of dick to get up there to that top. Tom literally did whatever he had to, man. Tom kissed who's ever ass. Tom clenched who's ever butt cheeks. Tom did whatever he needed to get in the right rooms with the right people, with the right places at the right time, and made his way to the top. I ain't gonna fault you, man. I'm not mad at that. I'm really not. I'm really not mad at Tom for doing whatever he had to do to get to the position he's in, because from the very beginning he was that sort of person to do whatever he had to do to get to wherever he wanted to go. Tom was a very selfish, inflicted person as well. Now, I'll say this as far as Shiv and Tom's relationship goes. Look, the parallels are crazy. Shiv is basically about to become her mother now, basically married to a big person, a powerful CEO, and just be completely neglected for the rest of her life, and she'll have to raise a child, only knowing in the fact that her child will be the successor, or will be in line to be the successor of this, this company at some point in time. So that's really why she's writing this out, but she's not going to be happy. Her and Tom's relationship will not be nixed. It won't be fixed. That joint is, well, I think nixed means it'll be done. So yeah, their relationship will more likely not be fixed. It'll be nixed. And she'll just be living out the rest of her days just like her mom, Kendall. Kendall will have to be, I believe his name, the security guard's name is Colin. Kendall will just be watched by Colin for the rest of his days, just like his dad was, except the only difference between Kendall and his dad had that seat of power. Logan was still a very lonely man, a very soulless man, somebody who, honestly, although he had all those people around him trying to get his approval, they were all doing the same thing, waiting for this man to die off so that they could take the throne for themselves, so they could find a way and become the powerful CEO of Waystar. Like, everybody was doing the same thing. So Logan really had nobody at all, which is why, really looking back on Kendall's story, how he destroyed so many relationships and destroyed himself, and to just end up at the end of the show with nothing, it absolutely killed me to see that. But it was an ending that was much needed. It was something where I'm truly saying to myself, this is the only way this could have gone. Kendall, none of them deserve that title. I'm sorry. Whether or not it's in their family's name, their family's legacy, blah, 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 they would have all, like I said, Shiv had the smarts. Shiv had everything, every tool needed to run that company very successfully. She's just a woman. Nobody's going to give a woman, it's a very shitty thing, but nobody's going to give a woman that time of day to let her have that sort of power. Like nobody's going to give a woman that sort of time of day. And Kendall's just a ticking. Roman is an emotionally ticking time bomb. Kendall is just a ticking time bomb, period. Just making crazy moves. And like I said, for a long time, I respected the moves that Kendall made. But at some point in season 4, once we got past Logan's death and they really started to show their true colors, and Kendall and Rome wanted to fire everybody, thinking the shit was a joke. Yeah, they were trying to do everything they could do to fuck the deal, which, of course, I understand because they want to keep this business in their family's legacy, man. But it's just like, nobody was fit to lead. Nobody was fit to lead, and honestly, Tom is not. I'm not mad at Tom. I'm not mad at Tom at all for, not only getting his way to that position to have that seat, but I'm not mad at Tom for being chosen or being the one that ended up on the throne in the first place. I mean, I'll tell you this, that was a lot better ending than Game of Thrones. It was a much more satisfying one than Game of Thrones, for sure. I'd rather see some, Game of Thrones, although that's such a phenomenal show. But look, overall, guys, I'll say this about my entire Succession experience. The first 3 seasons of this show, while it was absolutely terrific television, I won't lie to you, this is some of the best written television in TV history. Like, it's like written, this show written wise is up there with some of the best. It possibly could be the best. I mean, absolutely just knocks you on the floor with not only their comedic whips and just like some of the aggressive dialogue, but it's just like the timing and the pacing that this show has, the way lines are delivered, the way certain scenes happen where the violins intensify, so I have to pay attention to the screen now. That was my experience for the first 3 seasons of this. I felt like a lot of people were watching this show for completely different reasons. When I talk to people about their Succession experience, while of course the whole Family Guy joke about where they say their names would be going,
Oh my God, Kendall?
Kendall! And Shiv?
Love Shiv.
And what about Roman?
Yes! And Logan.
Oh, Logan.
part of the conversation that we have. But when talking to people about what they actually enjoyed from the first 3 seasons, everybody really gives me a different answer. Some people say they adore the writing. Some people say they adore just Logan spazzing on people. Some people say they love the quick whip, quick whips? I don't know, just the shitting on each other. People enjoy the fact that everybody just shits on one another. All the shit, like the family just completely hates one another, and they just shit on each other with actually very good jokes. I'm not gonna lie, it's not bad jokes in the sense of just like it's just very bad things to say to your family and just people that you say you quote unquote love. It's just like some of the most gut wrenching things. But hey, that's what family's for, I guess. But And then other people, they enjoyed the dynamics between certain characters, like Tom and Greg. A lot of people loved Tom and Greg. I was a big Tom and Greg fanatic in the first few seasons as well. I mean, I still adore their relationship. I won't lie to you. I was going to be very, very hurt if Tom had just dropped Greg off because they got into a fight. Like, Greg, you tried to grow, you slowly were growing a pair of balls throughout the series, and you tried to, grow a big pair in this last, 2 episodes or so. Really tried to, force your hand there. Actually, the last 3 episodes, I won't lie, because when Greg threw Shiv under the bus, that's really when Greg was starting to think he's that dude. So, while I appreciate Greg for trying to grow some balls there, it's too little too late, and you still Tom's bitch at the end of the day, but I'm glad that Tom didn't let Greg go, because that would have been hurt. That would have hurt. I'm glad to see that Tom and Greg are still going to be, doing dumb shit behind office doors. But overall, talking to people about their experience with this show, I just got a lot of different answers from the seasons 1 through 3. But one thing that everybody can collectively say that season 4 brought us was some of the most intense, not only dialogue, but just ridiculously miraculous performances by the 3 main leads and just honestly everybody in the show, period. I mean, honestly, I'll say this. The 3 episodes in this show, Logan's death, the funeral, and the finale, were the 3 best episodes I've seen in this entire series. I'm talking about Logan. I'll start with Logan's death. That episode, it didn't even feel real. Like the fact that they did it so well. They covered it up so well to just make the audiences feel like, is this real? Is this actually happening? Like, we're literally witnessing a conversation happen from a plane. And it's just nobody knows if he's going to survive, if he's going to pull through. And gross. And he's literally, nobody knows if he's going to pull through. We're literally sitting there trying to figure out, is this real? Is this actually happening? Is Logan dying? Is this how they would kill off a character like this? I spent at least 25 to 30 minutes of that episode in absolute just utter confusion. I was just baffled. I was just so shocked. I was trying to figure out if what I was actually witnessing was coming to life. If Logan Roy was actually about to die. And honestly, I have to applaud them for that incredible episode of television. The funeral episode itself was absolutely ridiculous, written and performed to a T. It was absolutely incredible. And the finale itself, I'll say this. The ending of a television series, especially if you want to compare it to some of the greats, such as Breaking Bad, Sopranos, The Wire. I will say Game of Thrones too, but Game of Thrones ending is one of the most controversial, so that's where that kind of hurts that show as a whole. But Game of Thrones is still one of the most biggest historical, eventful television shows we've had in a very long time. But this show, Succession here, I'll say this. Succession was not on that level of television shows. Oh, Peaky Blinders too. Peaky Blinders is definitely up there. Succession was not in that tier of God level TV for me for the first 3 seasons. As good as it was, I just felt like it wasn't always the most gripping show as far as me having to have my phone down and literally pay attention. Like I said, sometimes, especially in the first 2 seasons for me, there were literally cues where you could literally tell when it was time to pay attention and when it wasn't. And that's when the violins got all heavy, or when things got really quiet and the camera just zoomed in and panned on the person's face. And you knew you had to listen to whatever was going on and something important was happening. But that's the other thing about this show, because there's a lot you can miss. There's so much dialogue and there's so much that's putting into... There's so much little Easter eggs that are put into all these episodes that if you really miss it, you can miss a pivotal part of the story, or you can miss a really pivotal character development moment, because that's one thing that this show definitely did very well. It's develop characters and bring them honestly full circle, just to show that, I don't know if anybody else was really rooting for anybody in this show. Like I said, I know a lot of people, or at least friends of mine, that were rooting for Kendall, and then we all got to the point where it's yeah, we can't root for this guy anymore. Season 4 really opens our eyes to that. But I mean, look, overall, guys, as far as a television show goes, this final season of Succession itself is what put this show into the God tiers of television for me. Those 3 episodes especially, that's some of the best television I've seen, honestly, since Ozymandias, the Breaking Bad episode. Look, man, is this show better than Breaking Bad? Not at all. Is this show better than Peaky Blinders? Not at all. Is it up there with Game of Thrones? Absolutely. I will not, like I said, the ending of a show is very pivotal to the entire consensus surrounded around it. Like, your ending has to be as strong as your prime, and if you want it to be a phenomenal television show, if you want it to go down in history as one of the greats. Succession did that. Succession's final season took everything that the previous 3 did and turned it up by like 7 notches, maybe 20, and just absolutely just blew me away with the last 3. The last 3 episodes of this thing were phenomenal, but especially the last 2, the funeral and the finale itself. Watching, and honestly, what even surprised me more is the fact that Jeremy Strong, Sarah Snook, and Kieran Culkin, they backpacked this show without Logan Roy. That was absolutely incredible. I didn't even think that was possible to carry the show without Logan Roy, but they did that very successfully, and I was just absolutely astounded by what I saw. Connor's hilarious. I just want to shout that out. Look, there's a lot in this show that I like. A lot of characters I've come to know and love. There are a lot of characters in this show that I hate. There's a lot of characters in this show that, honestly, I'm still pretty neutral on. Mattson, I will say, Alexander Skarsgård's character, one of the best. That dude, I understand a lot of people think he's an asshat, but like I said, everybody in this show sucks. There's nobody to root for. And personally, Mattson was the only guy who was at least real and stood on his bullshit. Like, Mattson knew he was full of it, and he just, just lived life as so. I really enjoyed that. But look, those are my thoughts on Succession, the series, the series finale, the series recap. Those are my thoughts. Guys, let me know in the comments below what you thought of the finale, what you thought should have happened. I mean, or did you enjoy the way things turned out? Who do you believe should, been the CEO of Waystar? Should Shiv have done that in the first place? Let me know in the comments below what you guys thought. But thank you so much for watching. I do really appreciate it. Look, this is your guy in the chair. More content coming to you soon.